From overpowered tanks of old to crazy fantasy vehicles, we're counting down 15 of the most controversial vehicles in World of Tanks. Number 15. Oh, these Skypigs. They're bad enough as it is, but when the Bat Chatillon 155-58 was introduced in patch 7.4, it moved the goalpost. This French SPG has a full rotating turret, a quick aim time, and it is incredibly maneuverable. And to top it all off, it's equipped with a 4-shell autoloader that can fire once every 6 seconds. Cries about nerfing this SPG materialized soon after its release, but the defenders were quick to point out that it takes ages to reload the drum, that it does the least amount of damage per shot, has the lowest penetration and smallest splash radius of any arty of the same tier. But regardless, you know when you're getting your tracks blown off by the Batchat artillery and you're out of repair kits, you know it's time to kiss your ass goodbye. Not only that, the Batchat 155-58 is the only vehicle in the game that can kill a Waffenträger of E100 reliably in 6 seconds, and for that it deserves our gratitude. Number 14. Patch 8.9 saw the introduction of an entirely new line of German tank destroyers. These no longer depended on their armor, but on their stealth. And the tank that succeeded in that better than any other was the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger. It was able to keep up consistent fire without getting spotted thanks to its fully rotating turret, and its best gun was ironically enough the stock gun. So without any grinding, you instantly had a stealthy mass murderer in your hands, and scores of enemies threw their hands in the air in utter frustration after having been killed by yet another Borsig, which they weren't even able to spot during the entire game. However, if the Borsig did get spotted and caught in the open, it was usually game over rather quickly for this tin can, which had virtually no armor. And thanks to the recent changes to the TD class, such as the camo nerf in patch 9.1 or the view range nerf in patch 9.6, alongside the many map changes designed to reduce the effectiveness of long-range snipers, the Borsig has lost a little bit of its mojo. Though it still has the highest win rate of any tier 8 TD. In your face, wargaming. Number 13. What do veteran players do when they need a break from all these high-tier clan war matches? That's right, they go and club some seals. And the seal clubber's tank of choice at tier 2 has been the T18 for a long time. It combines great speed and armor with a gun that can even one-shot some tier 3 tanks. Then you put 100% brothers in arm screw in it, stacking camo, equip the tank with modules such as improved ventilation, and you end up with an absolute axe murderer. The T18 was nerfed several times over the years, but it remained one of the go-to tanks for ruffle stomping the enemies. However, the days of stat padders and pimped out T18s are coming to an end, as the T18 is due to be taken out of the game in its current form and reintroduced as an artillery. What the fuck? Number 12. There are SPGs and there are SPGs, but there is only one F304. Some people call it the Flea, others the Shoe, but it's best known as Bird the Avenger. This is by far the most trollish artillery in the entire game. But why? It's got terrible range, low damage, penetration and splash radius. So it's crap, right? Well, far from it. Bird is faster than most light tanks and can take on the role of a scout when the need arises. It also fires fast and its accuracy is second to none. Bird also has an incredible gun arc, allowing it to hit targets other arties cannot hit in their wildest dreams. Sure, it got nerfed in patch 9.3, and sure, it's an SPG that haters gonna hate. But we love Bird. If he's on our team, that is. Number 11. And here we have another seal clubber, the Martyr 2. If you're new to World of Tanks, you're probably going to say, what the fuck are you talking about? The Martyr 2 is crap. And you would be right, but it hasn't always been crap. Many years ago, when World of Tanks was still young and players were able to drive their tanks at full speed towards a cliff only to come to a complete stop when they hit a magic wall, in those days the Martyr 2 was the seal clubber's go-to tank of tier 3. It was agile, had a fantastic gun with a wide gun arc and a cloaking device it seemed to have borrowed from the Romulans. When fully decked out with a highly trained crew, there was very little that could stop it. But the nerf bat came down hard on the Martyr 2 on multiple occasions. It was eventually nerfed into oblivion in patch 8.0 and finished off for good in patch 8.9. Poor Martyr, look what you've become. But for those of us who had the fortune of playing it when it was the real deal, the Martyr 2 will live in infamy. Number 10. All that bitching and whining about overpowered high-tier tank destroyers probably started more than 3 years ago in patch 7.5, when the AMX-50 Foch 155 was added to the game. This tier 10 tank destroyer was the first of its kind to feature an autoloader capable of firing 3 shots in 12 seconds for a total damage of well over 2,500, killing many of the tanks it would meet in one clip. But that wasn't all. The Foch had very strong frontal armor and it was very quick indeed, courtesy of its 1200 horsepower engine. And it was stealthy too. Needless to say that players cried out and demanded that the Foch be nerfed. They cried out for a long time, and in early 2014 they finally got their wish, when in patch 8.11 the Foch had its armor weakened, its speed lowered and its alpha damage reduced by 100 per shot. There are more extreme vehicles in the game these days, but we think that the power creep of late in World of Tanks may have very well started with this one, the AMX-50 Foch 155. Number 9. Imagine a turreted tank destroyer as stealthy as the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger. Now imagine you give it a top speed of 72 km an hour, tone down the gun a notch, and make it a tier 6. Well, that would be completely crazy. So naturally you can find it in World of Tanks. It's called the M18 Hellcat and it used to be the strongest tank destroyer of its tier, by a mile. Its gun was pretty good, its speed and agility were second to none for a TD, and its camo is the stuff of legends. Combine this with an absolute lovely view range and the Hellcat was a stat padder's dream. Of course there were those who don't like it when someone else has something nice, so they called for nerfs. And Wargaming didn't listen. So they cried some more and were ignored. Then Wargaming decided that TDs are hurting the game, so they nerfed maps for TDs, they took the camo bonus away from TDs, and they nerfed the living daylights out of the Hellcat. That was in patch 9.3, and the Hellcat has never really recovered ever since. Number 8. Welcome to the most hated tank in the game, the infamous Type 59. It has but one reputation: it's completely overpowered. But really, it isn't. The Type 59 is a good tier 8 medium tank, nothing more, nothing less. As a premium tank it earns the player a lot of credits, but so is the nature of premium tanks. So why all the hate then? In order to understand that, we have to go way back into the early days of World of Tanks. The type of that era had very strong armor, was highly mobile, and it received preferential matchmaking. At most it would see tier 9s, and back in the day the battle tier spread was much larger than it is today. And that meant that the Type 59 was regularly top tier and it would shoot tier 5 tanks. And let's be honest, who wouldn't like that? As you can imagine, its popularity skyrocketed, to the point where Type 59s were the predominant tank of battles of its tier. Wolf packs of types would maraud the maps, picking off enemies one by one. And since this tank was one that you could purchase with real money, it was perceived as pay to win. By some people anyway. The tank became so popular that Wargaming put an end to selling it, and in January 2012 the tank was removed from the gift shop. And since then the Type 59 is only handed out as a reward tank on special occasions. So it was hated before when it was clearly unbalanced, and while it no longer is, it's still hated today because players can no longer get one. There's tons more to say about the Type 59, but we have to move on to number 7. What do you get when you mount an artillery cannon to a chassis of a tank? You end up with the tank that has the highest alpha damage in the game. Of course we're talking about the FV215B 183. Equipped with a 183mm cannon, this monster can one-shot tier 9s and even some tier 10s. Of course, all that damage comes at a price, and that's the price of the premium hash ammunition, which sets you back a whopping 8,000 credits per shell. There's other bad news too. Its cannon is just about the most inaccurate gun in the game, its reload is measured in days, and it carries just 12 shells of ammunition. Sure, there are better tier 10 tank destroyers in the game, but the sheer presence of a loaded and ready-to-fire FV has enemies shaking in their boots. And the brave ones, well, they don't often live to regret their mistake. This is a doomsday cannon on tracks. It's the only tank that deserves to be called Death Star. Number 6. From one tier 10 to another, say hello to the first heavy tank on our list, the T57 Heavy. It marks the end of the American medium tree, which is filled with filthy autoloaders, and the T57 Heavy is no exception. It can empty its clip of 4 shells in 6 seconds, and its reload time is less than 24 seconds. With more than 3200 DPM, there is no heavy tank in the game that does more damage per minute than the T57 Heavy. It is an offensive powerhouse. That's why some people hate it. They call it OP, they call it broken. And then there's the other side, the people who own one. Some of them actually want it buffed and point to its sluggish speed, slow aim time and miserable global win rate. But so is the nature of autoloaders. They have an incredible burst damage potential, and players on the receiving end often don't react too kindly to being burnt down in 6 seconds. Number 5. Most of the tanks on this list are either OP, perceived as OP, or hurt the gameplay. But our pick for number 5 is different. Here's a tank that was feared on the battlefields of World War II. It is the infamous Tiger. And the best part is, you can actually drive one in World of Tanks. Just imagine the excitement. So it is no surprise that many new players first researched the German tech tree in order to get their hands on this monster. It has to be epic, right? So they get in it, drive out, feeling so completely safe. This is a heavy tank after all, and a mighty Tiger no less. And then they get shot to bits. Then they ask themselves, what's going on here? Virtually everybody damages me. That's not how it was in real life. What the fuck? It is now that they begin to realize that World of Tanks plays it fast and loose when it comes to historical accuracy. It pits tanks from the early 1940s against post-World War II tanks, prototypes like the T-29 that never saw any combat, or Onis that never existed in the first place. Experienced players know this fact all too well and simply shrug it off. They just move on, and right they are, because at the end of the day, World of Tanks is just an arcade shooter with pre- and post-World War II tanks. Still, it bothers some people when one of the most iconic tanks of all time ends up as disappointingly mediocre as the Tiger does in World of Tanks. Number 4. Oh yeah, we almost forgot. The race car tank thingy, whatever that was. The T-52 was the Tier 5 Soviet light tank. It reached its maximum speed of 72 kph with ease, and it accelerated like no other tank in the game. It was the closest thing to an actual racing car in World of Tanks. Before physics were introduced, T-52 drivers could navigate the battlefield at full speed without any regard for the terrain. But after patch 8.0 that changed. They were sliding all over the goddamn place. It was hilarious fun. But here's the problem. It wasn't at all historical. We spent hours upon hours trying to find out anything about the T-52, but except for that it was apparently called Object 211, we couldn't find anything. If it ever truly existed, it sure as hell didn't have a 550 brake horsepower engine. Even for an action game that has plenty of historical inaccuracies, this was taking it one step too far, even for the developers. So in patch 8.7 it was replaced by the MT-20 something rather, and no one really cares about that one. Number 3. Welcome to one of the meisters of the derp, the M4 Sherman, the Tier 5 medium tank for the Americans. But why is it on this list, you might ask? It's a perfectly fine tank, a good one even, but it's not overpowered, right? Well, not so fast. You see, the M4 Sherman can use a 105mm howitzer derp gun, and that howitzer can shoot heat premium shells. Before patch 8.6, these heat shells had an insane amount of penetration, a whopping 150mm. With that, the M4 was able to ruffle stomp its way through the battlefield, once shooting many tier 5s and lower tier targets, and severely crippling most tier 6s. This really became a problem since the premium shells only cost 2,800 credits, and with a premium account you could easily afford to shoot heat exclusively and still run a profit. Patch 8.6 put an end to that. The shell price was raised to 4,000 credits, and the penetration of the heat shell was reduced from 150 to 104mm. This effectively ended the M4 Sherman's heat-infused reign over the battlefield. Well, it sure was fun while it lasted. Number 2. This one simply had to show up eventually. the dreaded KV-1S. This powerhouse at tier 6 combined great mobility and decent armor with a devastating 122mm cannon. One KV-1S was dangerous enough, but when in a platoon in a tier 6 game, these machines were simply unstoppable. This tank was overpowered for years. The calls for nerfs in the community went on for just as long, but Wargaming didn't react. So the years went on and the KV-1S continued to troll at tier 6. Probably sick of all that whining, Wargaming eventually caved in, and the nerf to the KV-1S was coming, and it was to be split into two tanks. That was in 2013. It took more than a year for that to actually happen, but in the fall of 2014, the KV-1S was finally changed. It was moved down a tier and a new tank, the KV-85, took its place. The KV-1S is now a tier 5. It kept its former speed and agility, and one weapon of choice is a 120mm howitzer with a massive 450 alpha damage, allowing it to one-shot just about any lightly armored tank of its tier. So in essence, Wargaming shut up the player base by agreeing to nerf the 1S, and then they proceeded to turn it into another one-shot monster, this time a tier 5, where it might be even more OP than its former incarnation at tier 6. You know what this is, don't you? Number 1. You saw that coming from a mile away, didn't you? Of course the Waffenträger of E100 simply has to take the top step on the podium. And it's easy to see why. Just look at the thing. No tank has ever looked this way and probably never will. Something like this belongs into a sci-fi B movie and not into World of Tanks. What on earth were Wargaming thinking when they decided that the end of the second German TD line would feature a completely ridiculous fantasy tank that would have scared little Newt probably more than the Alien Queen did? The list of issues with this idiotic design is so long that if we added them all into a video and uploaded it to YouTube, YouTube would run out of storage space, and we would probably break the internet. So let's focus on the main issues, shall we? The WT of E100 is a tank of the extremes. For starters, this thing has the worst camo in the entire game. It gets spotted by everything and everyone. And it is a huge target with a gigantic turret that has no armor. Tier 1 tanks can penetrate it, and artillery will make it a priority, just itching to drop a tasty HE shell on top of it for maximum damage. Its reload takes the better part of a minute, and once it has emptied its clip, it has to hide all the way in the back, like a coward. But on the other hand, it has the most brutal stopping power of any tank in the game. It can clip any tank it meets in less than 10 seconds, giving the term burst damage a whole new dimension. Not only that, but the 12.8cm cannon is extremely accurate and fast aiming. That's hitting weak spots, easy mode. Its impact on the gameplay is quite severe and not in a good way. It promotes campy playstyle. No one wants to get clipped by one of these monsters. And the WT of E100 Driver 2 can't afford to take any risks and has to play very passively. And here's another problem with this tank. Many tanks leading up to it share the same strengths and weaknesses. Great guns, good camo, and no armor. But since the WT of E100 has no camo, you have to throw everything you've learned prior out of the window. A top tier should never require a completely different approach to the game than the tanks that preceded it. That's just bad design. It seems all but confirmed that the days of the Waffenträger of E100 are numbered, and a more sensible replacement seems to be coming our way. Whether or not it's OP or simply broken, a completely unhistoric tier 10 tank that can do what it does while looking like an alien queen simply should have been never added to the game. It is perhaps one of the biggest blunders that Wargaming has ever committed. Well done, Yuri. Do you agree with our list? Which tanks do you think are the most controversial ones? Do you want to see more contents like this in the future? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to like the video and subscribe for more contents in the future. Have a good one.